Yeah, so thank you. Yeah, thanks Vinod sir, and thanks Kanishka for joining in today at such a short notice. So people are still joining in. We'll give some time, but we can start with uh, Vinod sir and a little introduction. So to every one of you who have joined today, so Mr. Vinod Raman Nair, he has written he is starting with his first and fictional novel trilogy, which is Three and the Emerald Stone of Irene. And then he a little bit about him, that he's a filmmaker, he's a researcher, writer, producer, and he loves to okay, he the events that has led him to travel to 16 countries, and he has also worked with the legendary talents across the world, with some of the Korean directors and producer director Stanley and British actor Alex Goldwyn. He is the one of the first Indians to have shot across a war-torn Gaza Strip to a German film, which entered 2004 Berlin Film Festival. Wow, that's great. So I think I'll not take much time, and I'll give it over to Vinod sir. Thanks a lot for coming to the Bookoholics Book Club today, and to talk about your book, the new book which you're writing, your debut novel. So if I missed anything, can you please tell something about more about yourself, and also please in like tell us the synopsis about your book.
Yeah, thank you for that good introduction which you made. I'm so happy to be a part of this group discussion. Well, to start with, see, when it comes to my introduction, you have far reach. You have covered almost all aspects of what I have been doing. Now, authoring a book has been a dream for a long time. But what happens is, see, when you are smitten by movie magic, what happens is you start getting you drift away from what you actually wanted to do. But then this story, when it started germinating inside me, this was my I have been a prolific documentary maker actually, and this was when I was on a trip to Turkey, where I was actually researching the Ottoman Empire, where I was doing a documentary on the Warsaw Pact. So this was where I visited the university library there in Istanbul, and I stumbled across a book actually by the name the Jabrian Corpus, which actually was basically a book written by Hussein bin Jabir, which is known as the Jabrian Corpus, and which actually gave me a complete different insight about the Islamic Empire. See, what happens is, unfortunately, in India, see, history is a very underdeveloped concept. Right in our school times, when I was a kid, also, my parents were used to push me into science, mathematics, to pick up a career in life. History is always, "Chalo yaar, chalta hai, kar lo, kisi bhi tarike se nikal lo." This is the attitude. In our families, we never have this concept of research and trying to reach a certain destination through your research. We don't do that. So what happened was, when see in a forum, if I speak about Islamic Empire, there are a few names which comes to the fore. Number one is Aurangzeb, one is Babur, one is maybe a few people have seen Padmavat might talk about a Khilji. But sadly, none of them basically represent the Islamic Empire. The Islamic Empire was centered in Baghdad during the 9th century. These were offshoots basically when the Baghdad Caliphate was dismantled in the 13th century by the Mongols. But what happens is, unfortunately, people don't actually view it this way. Now, what happens is, despite Islamic Empire being seen as a very brutal empire, in an empire which always based itself on expansion, this particular book gave me a certain different insight to the Islamic Empire. Now, what was that insight? I'll tell you. Me as a researcher, me as an academician, knows that Aryabhatta invented the zero. But how many around here actually know that the subject algebra, which we all studied, was basically a contribution of the Arabs. The original name of algebra was Al-Jabr. You, you understand? So the 9th century is what I picked up during that time, which is known as the golden age of the Islamic Empire, centered in Baghdad, where Baghdad had become the center of wisdom. There even was an institution called Baitul Hikmah, which was known as the House of Wisdom, which was centered in the middle of Baghdad city. And see, as I have traveled across the world exploring history, for me, history cannot be seen in isolation. For me, there is nothing called as a history of India. History is very dynamic. See, something which happens in India has an effect across the world. Something that happens in Africa has its effects across the world. So I see what I have tried to do in this book is to dismantle and try to upturn history on its head, where I'm trying to say let's not view history via personalities and timelines. What I'm saying is let us try to view history as a story of civilizations. Those walked this earth, they contributed something and it fell. The next civilization came in, rose, and again contributed. So it is the story of the world and these civilizations, where which is reflected in the way the world was once upon a time to where we stand today. So how I am trying to explore civilization. I am trying to explore history is via civilizations, and trying to say that well, this was a very scientifically rich kind of a civilization, because see, when it comes to expansionist ideas, almost all kingdoms were doing it at that time. So my book basically is basically a film, is a book which says Three and the Emerald Stone of Irene. Now I'll center my small pitch on what is this Emerald Stone of Irene. Emerald Stone of Irene is basically a stone which was in the possession of Empress Irene, who was in that time the Empress of Byzantine. Now, Byzantine is the East African Roman Empire, and there is a legend that it is because of this stone that the Romans basically got the light of fortune through this stone, and they ruled over the world for so many centuries. Now, it is around 782 that Harun al-Rashid, a young boy from Baghdad, basically battles across Byzantine and defeats Empress Irene, and actually captivates her. And in order to bail out herself, she passes on this stone to Harun. And the young Harun, who is only 15 years at that time, he brings this stone back to Baghdad. And that is why there is a legend in Islamic history also, which says that it is the stone which allowed the Islamic Empire to prosper for a long time. And Harun was in possession of the stone, and it was placed on the top of the House of Wisdom. But what happened was during when he was closer to his death, he had developed Alzheimer's, and because of which he was also very worried that there were a lot of political instability at that time, and his sons were fighting a succession battle. He was very upset. So what happened? He felt that the stone should not fall into a wrong hand, so he hid it somewhere. He hid it somewhere, and he died. And by the time during the 13th century, the Mongols invaded, the stone got lost. Now, what happens is, see, when I theoretically tell all these things, what happens is it could become very boring. That as we have been learning it in history books. So what I've tried to do is to weave a story around this, where we have adventure, we have excitement, we have intrigue, we have riddles, we have puzzles to solve through, and ultimately discovering what this stone actually was. So the whole idea which I have set this into is a very, very fun-filling story of three heroes who come together, three technocrats hailing from different parts of the world, coming together to save the world from a supervillain. Now, the supervillain is basically a secret society There are no religious connotations here, and it's a secret society called the Order of the Nine Angels, which is run by a megalomaniac called Nergal. And it is about these three who are trying to save the world from Nergal. And all the three of them are from the 21st century, and all of them explore the Islamic Caliphate in the journey to save the world. That is what basically the book is.
Hi, thanks. That was really interesting to know about your book.
Yeah,
I just wanted to know that the story that you have written, how
yeah.
much of it would you consider it as fiction, and how much is like influenced by non-fiction part? Would there be facts and some true events that are narrated in between that we'll get to know, or would it be completely a fiction story?
No, no, no. There will be a lot of historical events which you will discover. See,
Mhm.
what I am trying to say is, see, what happens is when I have to talk about, I'll just try to draw an analogy. See, when my mother wanted to tell me about Vishnu, say for example, Krishna. So what
Okay.
happened is she told me about the story where the little Krishna holds up the whole Parvat to to ward off the cyclone which has come in to save the villages. You
Yeah,
understand?
yeah, yeah.
Now,
Yes,
now see
yeah.
what happens is none of us have seen this.
Hmm.
You understand? None of us have seen this. But what happens? Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Vinod, go ahead.
So
Yeah.
what I'm saying is none of us has seen this. But what happens is, as a child, it creates a curiosity as to wow, yeah, if the little Krishna did this. What happens is now whether it is fact or fiction. See what happens is history recorded through years. Those have the dots have to be met. You cannot say that one book which relates to a certain kind of civilization is the only book which talks about it. There will be 10 sources which you will have to go through and then connect the dots. Now I'll tell you one very interesting episode in my book. Now I have talked about I don't know, whoever I have spoken to have never even come across something like this. I'm sorry. Have you ever heard about a concept called the Hussaini Brahmins?
No, not me.
Yeah. Now, Hussaini Brahmins were basically a Mohayal Brahmin tribe which used to live in Lahore during when we hadn't partition. You understand? Now, what happened is these Mohayal Brahmins. There is a tribe of Mohayal Brahmins who have traveled all across and fought the Karbala war for Imam Hussain in 782. You understand? See, there
Yeah.
were during in that time, and even today, there is a small tribe of around 700 which live
Hmm.
in Arabia who call themselves as Hussaini Brahmins. And this nomadic tribe, they practice Hinduism. At the
Hmm.
same time, they also go and pray for Imam Hussain.
Okay.
They
That
have not come back. And see, these Mohayal Brahmin, I'll tell you, Sunil Dutt is basically a Mohayal Brahmin. Sanjay Dutt is a Mohayal Brahmin.
okay. That's interesting. Yeah.
See, understand. See, history, when we view it, see, it's so complex and intervened.
Hmm.
Everything is so interconnected.
Hmm.
So, what happens is you cannot see it in isolation. You cannot say that, see, a simple example I'll give you. Gandhi happens to India. Gandhi says no hatred. Now, see, in Africa, what happened? In Africa, Nelson Mandela stands tall where he opposes the majority mandate which says that throw every white man out of this country. He fights his own people to say that no, let's not show hatred. See, what happens is everything has a connection. But unfortunately, what happens is history in our country is taught in a
Hmm.
different way. Unfortunately, see, what happens is all of us during our childhood might have gone through this question, which
Hmm.
I've put in my preface of my book. See, who discovered America? Everybody says Columbus and everybody claps. But
Yeah.
actually, Columbus is not basically a testimony of the discovery of America, but he
Hmm.
is a testimony to the dismantling of the Mayan civilization.
Okay.
But that child in that time doesn't know what is Mayan civilization. You understand? America was built on the corpus of the Mayan civilization, but people don't know
Yes.
it.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah, Vinod. Absolutely.
So,
Yes.
so what I have tried to say, see, I've written a book. What I've tried here is so that even a 13-year-old boy enjoys it. You know, he might not absorb everything from the book, but what happens is he at least explores those historical areas.
Yes.
You understand?
Okay.
And it's
Yes.
connect with India. And how is it connected to India? Because I'm an
Yeah.
Indian, you know, I cannot think outside India. So that Indian
Hmm.
connect will always be there. You know, how
Okay.
was it connected? See, Harun al-Rashid's personal physician was an Indian, was a Hindu doctor actually,
Hmm.
on whose name there is a city in Iraq. People don't know about it.
Yeah. So we'll get to know a lot from your
Yeah, yeah,
book.
yeah.
Thank you,
So,
Vinod. Thank you
yeah,
for
yeah,
that gist.
yeah.
And since we are already talking, so would you like to share a couple of books that are favorite of yours from this genre?
Oh, actually, as I told you, I view history very differently. See, there is see, there have been two works which I have felt that they have endured times. You know, still remained with me all through these years. You know, one is War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. Now, there might be people who say that यार ये historical fiction है क्या? See, for me, what is history? History is basically a work, a record of a certain era. It
Yes.
need
Yeah.
not be, need not be a great event. See, something what is undergoing between us is also history. You know, it might
Yes.
be
Yeah.
recorded in some small sentence somewhere.
Hmm.
So what I feel is Leo Tolstoy's work. Then I love, I still read sometimes, randomly Dostoevsky's work, Pride and Crime and Punishment. You know, I feel that these were all intricate works of a certain era, and with great understanding of the socio-economic situation at that time and its effects on common people. See, what
Yeah.
this is where we miss the bus. You know, we don't
Hmm.
understand history is about what was the effect on a common man,
Hmm.
common people. We always put it aside and we think about heroes.
Yeah.
See, heroes अपने आप पैदा होते हैं यार, and उसमें there is nothing about ethnicity. I tell you, I always argue with my friends. Shivaji was a great king, fantabulous king. You know, see, he would have been great even if he was born in Bengal. He would have been great even if he was born in America. It has nothing to do with ethnicity.
True. Thank you. Thank you so much, Vinod, for all
Yeah.
that information and interesting things you shared with us.
So it was a great insight about your book, Mr. Vinod.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
and
for
as you
giving me this opportunity.
yeah, and as we said that there is a lot of we still need to. There are a lot of things about history which we don't know, and I think
Yeah.
maybe with your book we will know some of that.